Hey everyone, it's Trevor with etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the LaSalle Bristol Wastewater Valves for RV black water tanks. They're available in 36-inch to 120-inch cables, and they're also available with a spigot to hub or a spigot to spigot opening. This one's going to be more of a remote style with a cable that runs all the way back under the belly pan compared to something like this where it's more out front open where you can see it. Our neighbor's was leaking today and was kind of busted up, so that's why we were replacing it. Now your valve is going to come with your new valve body. It's going to come with all the hardware, 2 O-rings, and your handle. Now your cable inside of here is going to have a nice lubricated coating to make it easier to actually pull this out and push it back in, as well as this handle allows for easier grip since you can fit both fingers around here when you're pulling it out. Another thing that's nice about it is it has a nice corrosion resistant coating on it, as well as the valve body itself resists any type of water damage, as well as the O-rings resist cracking and are non-slip, so nothing gets stuck on them as you open and close your valve. Now it's fairly easy to replace. You just gotta follow that cable back to where your valve body is, get a hold of it, and then pop it loose. And if you're a little worried about how this installation is, we can dive into that and I can show you how easy it really was. Now when you're trying to find the waste valve, what you're going to do is you're going to follow that handle and you'll cut back this underbody paneling back until you find where yours is located. Ours is located here. Luckily our neighbor went ahead and found it for us ahead of time, but as long as you follow that cable back, you'll find your waste valves. Now to get it off, you're going to have 4 bolts and you'll have nuts on the other side to get that waste valve off. So you may need an extension to get in here without getting too messy. Now I'm using an 11mm socket and an 11mm wrench for the nut on the back, and I'm just using 1/4 inch drive because you don't need a whole ton to get these broken loose. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this screw here, loosen that nut, and remove the handle off so that we can pull this through whenever we remove that valve body. Now with that screw out of place, this will just simply slide straight off, and then from there you should be able to just loosen up this nut. Now you're going to have some kind of sealant around this most likely if this is the first time you're replacing this. So all you have to do is push straight back on it, and it might give you a little bit of resistance, but if you just keep pushing, it'll pop free, and then you can slide that all the way back there. So when we pull that valve body out, we can just pull it straight out. Now with that all ready to go, we should be able to just slowly give this a little bit of pressure to work it down and out of the way. Now with our cord removed and all 4 bolts out of our valve body, we can go ahead and work this out. Yep, and you kind of have to pry it apart to get those O-rings to pop out of place. And I'd recommend just putting a bucket down below just in case if you have a little bit of excess water from when you had it winterized last. So now with that off there, we can just pull out the cord. So what I did was I pulled out some of these self-tapping bolts along the underbody here to make it a little bit easier to pull this out since we had some ducting right here and a giant metal plate that it ran underneath. You may or may not have to do this part, but it is good to know that you might have to. Now before we can put the new valve body in, what we need to do is reach in here and get these little O-rings off of our pipe. Your new one comes with some, so don't worry about reusing these. So to set ourselves up for success a little bit here, what I'm going to do is put this nut on about where he had on his original valve body, which is about 4 threads in, and then we're going to run this back up through. And don't worry, if you need to access that, you can pull on ours. We just pulled 2 self-tapping bolts. I can pull it down a little bit and access this and spin it around a little bit to either increase the amount of thread I have poking out the front or decrease it. With that being said, you also want to make sure you're getting the right size cable for your needs as well, because if you have to stop and wait for a new one, it's not going to be a whole lot of fun. But once we got that kind of routed where it was, what we'll do is we'll take our new O-rings and pop them onto place here and then feed them in between those 2 pipes again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1 O-ring on the pipe side, and then I'll put another one on the valve body side. This will just make it a little bit easier when we go to put this in place. I can use one hand to hold the pipe side on, while I use this hand to hold this one in place. We'll get this kind of tucked around this pipe here, and good thing to note is, as you notice with this one, it's flat on this edge that's in the valve body, and this contoured edge is going to be going into our valve body. That allows it to kind of sit in place, and then just like we did before with the other one with getting it loose, we kind of have to do the same thing with putting it in. But this time we get to hold the O-rings in place while we do it. There we go. And with this in place, we're just gonna kind of wiggle it around until we can feed a bolt through both sides here. After we have that bolt in place on this side, we will take and tighten up. This will just go hand tight to kind of get it snug and get it to hold this valve body in place, because since it is a newer one, it hasn't been clamped down, it's gonna be a little loose. And then we can come back and get these bolts snug down. And like I said before, we're gonna go top down with this tightening process. This is just because the top is a little bit harder to reach. And you're gonna start to notice as you're tightening these up, is it's gonna start pulling this valve body in closer. So they're all gonna start to loosen up a little bit more. Or if you had it on there hand tight, it might not be hand tight anymore. So just get it re-snugged up to hand tight and then go ahead and tighten it up more. So we followed our pull cable through the underbelly like how it was previously until we could see it through the underbody back there. And then we just reached in, grabbed it, pulled it out. And now from there, all we're gonna do is take it and put it through this section here. And it looks like we might need to loosen the nut on the back up just a hair more. So we'll run that back a little bit. Realign that, and that looks quite a bit better. So what we'll do then is we'll take this washer, and then we'll take our nut, we'll throw that over the top, put some back pressure behind it just to keep it in place while we tighten that up. And we're gonna go ahead and tighten down this nut against this bracket, and you don't need to get too tight, you just want it to be like snug where you feel some resistance on it. And then we're gonna get our pull handle in place. And just like before, you slide that over that threaded piece, insert this screw. Once you feel it pick up the threads, you can take Phillips head screwdriver or a small power tool with a little bit of light pressure. You don't need to run it down too hard until it spins like that. And once it's on, you can give it a test and it should work just like that. And now we're just gonna run our self-tapping screws back in place. And that was the look at the LaSalle Bristol black water tank valve for RVs. My name's Trevor, and have a great day.